So, welcome to the Human Spectrum. Thank you for joining me today. I don't know if you guys saw this entire News Nation interview with Mr. Barber, Jake Barber. He was in the military, and after that he went into private contracting. Have you guys ever prayed before? I know I have. I prayed many times throughout my career in the government. And my type of prayer was based on how I was raised, which was Protestant, Pentecostal, and was pretty active in the church. I learned how to, that's where I learned music. I started off playing the guitar, and then from there I went on to DJing later on in my teen years. But yeah, that's a question I wanted to ask everybody, and put it in the comments. If any of you pray, it doesn't matter what religion, just want to know if you pray, because based on what this guy is saying in the interview, it's basically what you're doing. I mean, it's not that I follow the Protestant religion as close as I used to. We all have our own private communication with someone higher than us. But with this new talk of consciousness, which I still consider to be spirit, I think it's just the mainstream way of saying spirit. That's my opinion. Scientifically speaking, I could be wrong, but I think when you talk about the consciousness or conscience, you're talking about also the spirit. If they're not mutually exclusive, then they're very close to each other. So what I mean by that is, if you meditate and clear your mind, like this gentleman says in this News Nation interview, perhaps go out into an open field on a clear day. I guess it doesn't have to be. And project love and meditate and clear your mind. And apparently these things can be summoned. These things I'm talking about are UAPs, obviously. But I thought it would be interesting to show you a few clips in case you didn't see the whole entire interview with Ross Coulthart on News Nation. I will leave a link for that full interview for you in the description. But I want to play you just 2 clips from this with just a brief discussion on the end. I think you're going to find this interesting. And play this first introductory clip from News Nation.
My name is Jake Barber, and for the last 30 years I've worked for the U.S. government and its private partners in both an official capacity as an enlisted man in the United States Air Force and in an unofficial capacity for the broader intelligence community as a contractor. Over the last 3 decades, my work has been very diverse and has included the recovery of downed UAP of non-human origin. I am pleased to share that as of a couple weeks ago, I have fulfilled a promise to our friend David Grush by getting myself into a skiff with Congress, and I have provided top secret SCI testimony on the subject matter of UAP. With this behind us, I'm pleased to be at a place where I can share information with the public. The type of information I can share will be limited by my DOPSR restrictions and personal restrictions I have set in order to protect the privacy and quality of life of my friends, family, and colleagues. So with that, let's talk.
Okay, and right about this time is when Ross Coulthart starts to ask him questions. What I'm going to do is go down to what I consider to be one of the most important parts. There were many parts to this interview that were important. I believe it was over 2 hours long. But the one that interested me the most, and I think that might interest you, is what he had to say in this video coming up. And this is basically when he talks about his job was basically private contracting with the government. They had special helicopters similar to the government's, what we have, double propelled ones, kilos, single propeller. They had all kinds. He ran some pretty big contracts. And at one point, he was tasked to do crash retrievals. So basically, that's what his whistleblower part of this whole thing is about. But he also brings us a lot of information that is correlating with a lot of what other people are saying. And what they're saying is basically you're meditating like prayer, but you're doing it by projecting love, which is a very hard thing for soldiers, law enforcement, special operators to project, especially in that line of work. And I'm speaking from experience on my end also. But then, sometimes you're hit with something profound, like this gentleman, apparently, if this is not a psyop, and this guy is genuine. And there is another interview that I saw today where there was another person that was in the special forces that backs him up. So what he was saying is that he had a crew. He would fly the helicopter, and the crew would just make sure they latch onto the object and bring it to wherever it had to go. The people on the ground, he was not involved with directly. They already had it packaged up like a neat little present, and they would just hook onto it and take off carefully and drop it off carefully. So this is what I'm going to play here is one part where he tells you his experience, not about the egg, because this is the guy that actually captured the egg and that got leaked out, and we all saw that, and we all watched the comments on Reddit and everything else. And I don't agree with all of them, but it's just interesting because he does mention in the interview how it's similar to the size of like the Mork and Mindy show. Mork from Ork, he talks about how that egg looks similar to that, and how that was interesting that they were playing that out to his generation, which is also my generation. And he gets into that a little more specifically when you watch the entire interview. But I want to play this part for you guys so you can understand a little more of what happened when he came upon an octagon shape craft that was packaged nice and neat for him, but things started to go a little odd for him, and he shares his experience. So we're going to go ahead and go with that.
During the recovery of the object at nighttime, I make my way in the helicopter from where we configure the line, and we fly to what we call the pick site. There's two locations. We designate them pick site, drop site. Drop site at the delivery location. We have a crew both at the pick site and the drop site on the ground. The pick team configures the cargo for flight.
So whatever it is, the craft is sitting in a sling waiting for your helicopter.
Yeah, it's sitting. We have these things called pumpkins, which are like rubberized bags or containers. And from my point of view, it was covered in a pumpkin, at least from the bottom and the sides. This is one of the most profound experiences I've ever had in my life I'm about to share with you, so bear with me. This is, for me, when it became clear. As I get closer to this pick site, I start feeling odd. I start feeling extremely emotional. And the closer I get, the more the emotion starts to overwhelm me. And
what do you feel? What's the emotion?
I feel a sense of my mother. I don't know how else to explain it. I feel this intense hybrid of sadness and happiness and beauty and song. And it was very disruptive to me because I had a very practical responsibility at the time to operate a helicopter in the mountains at night. And I began wondering what was wrong with me. It was late. I'm like, am I just stressed? Am I tired? Am I marinating in cortisol and estrogen? I don't know. But as I came over this object for the pick, there was this overwhelming sense of emotion.
What's it saying? The object. Tell me what you're feeling.
Like I said, it was an overwhelming sense of sadness, happiness.
Is it your feeling? Are you suddenly having a mental breakdown on the job?
No, I felt like something connected with me. I felt like something had tuned in to me and my soul and was providing me some sense of guidance on what to do and how profound what I was doing was. And it was so overwhelming that I began to cry. And
I can't imagine crying at night time with night vision goggles is the healthiest way to fly a chopper.
no, it is not. And then I'm confused as to why I'm crying at the same time. And then do I abort the mission? So I just did my best to focus on my particular cues when doing this type of work, and I got the load hooked up and I began flying away. And once it was just me and that object in between the pick and the drop site, there was about 20 miles in between, I felt like something was inside of me. I felt like I was possessed by the most beautiful spirit I'd ever been possessed by. And
Was it loving?
it was loving. But there was a sense of sadness at the same time. And
Had you ever had an experience like this before?
no, it was a very feminine energy, I'll tell you that. It felt like the spirit of God, but not in any masculine sense that I had ever felt. It was like, again, the feeling of my mother and my daughter and beauty. And it wasn't like a soul, it was like a frequency that I was connected with.
Was it scared?
I don't know if it is a thing. I'm still trying to figure out why that happened. I don't want to say that because I have a pretty good idea of what's going on now. And whatever that force was since that night, it has stayed with me. And as crazy as this sounds, it's what's guiding me now. And it's what's providing protection for me.
It's changed your life.
It's changed my life.
Do you think it's made you a better person, that experience?
It has made me a more sensitive and aware person, which I think all of us would be better people.
So that was a moment when you became aware of, at the very least, a technology that had the capacity to touch you remotely,
Remotely,
telepathically.
telepathically.
Now, telepathy, we are told, is a nonsense. It's a fiction. So what happened after you flew the object in the sling to presumably the drop-off zone?
Once I made the drop, before I got there, I was really scared that I was going to have to stop flying and punch this thing off because I was so distracted. But then I was like, well, crap, now we've got another recovery site. Now we're going to have to recover this. I'm going to have to emergency land. I don't know. So it took everything I had in me at the time to get to my drop site, and I delivered this. Oddly enough, no one in my crew reported having similar effects from this. I do not believe there was a being in that craft. I've come to understand now, after being involved with other parts of the programs that are tested on the range, that there is a known and researched and implemented emotional or psychic, or what we call a psionic component to the research and development of the UAP program.
So that's the particular clip that I wanted to show you guys because there's so many others in there. And I'm not going to put it all into context for you right now. There was a mission where they thought there were, because these guys, when you hire private contractors by private industry, it's easy to use them as plausible deniability. And you'll get what I mean by that when you watch the entirety of the interview. And he was in a situation like that. And then you'll be amazed to hear about where they were supposed to go and recover hard drives and what they call hard books. They're laptops, but they're heavy duty grade. They can go, I guess they can fall in the water. You can get them back out. I've seen a few of them before. But yeah, he had to recover stuff like that before, not just aircraft or UAPs or parts of something. But you'll find out more in the interview in its entirety. But I wanted to bring that clip to you because he touches upon something that was interesting. And assuming that this is not a psyop, and assuming that this is genuine, and for me, after researching this for the last, for me, 5 years, all the stories are the same. You have Stephen Greer, Dr. Greer on one side with CE5, which is basically the same thing that he's going to tell you about, which he doesn't use the app that he has. Dr. Greer has this app for CE5 that I'm sure you're all aware of. But he doesn't use it. He has a new team now. Some are what they call scions, I believe he says. I might have that wrong. These are people that come from the United States, all over the world, third world countries, that are more pure in their faith. And they actually, even our own government uses these people because their minds and their way of living and what they eat have kept their minds a little more less susceptible to the stuff that we're used to every day here in our country. And I guess that enables them to have a clear mind, so to speak. And apparently they practice it. And it's, to me, I compare that with praying. And I wanted to know what you guys think about that, because people have prayed before and things have happened for those people. Some people pray and things don't happen for them, or some don't even realize that something has happened for them due to their prayers and they just don't recognize it. But sometimes there is these meditation sessions that I personally know of a few people that know how to meditate very well. I've just begun myself, and the only reason why I do it is because it calms me down. I've gone through some things, and meditating does help, without getting too specific. But the meditation they're speaking of is more of going out there with the purpose of sending out what he's going to describe, which when you watch the entire video or interview, is going out there with a good attitude. And it's good to go with another person. And, go into this meditation, whether it's in your backyard, or it's in a field, or in a baseball field at night, or during the day. I guess it really doesn't matter. You'll see in the interview for yourself. But you go with the intentions of sending out what he describes as love, positive thoughts, and when you get to a certain state in your meditation, they say you'll be surprised about when you open your eyes and what you see. And sometimes that these things will connect. You could go with one friend one day or one night, and that friend will do it. You guys will do it right, and you might have an experience more than just seeing a UAP. The UAP may touch upon something. Let's say your friend is he's got anger issues. somehow the UAP might tap into that person, like he said, through telepathy, and kind of like try to straighten them out on it, or give them that sense of you don't have to be so angry all the time. Or you could be a person that's always sad, and you go out there and you do this. So, but I'm not saying it happens all the time. He just says a lot of times it happens, that if they open their minds enough and they meditate and they do it with positivity and all this love, and just for the sake of seeing them do certain things, sending certain orbs. And you'll hear in one case where I want to say it was the size of almost 3 football fields on the second interview. And if you want, I'll get that clip up for you guys, where this guy backs him up and says that he was blown away because one of these Scion people that were brought into the program just asked him out of the blue, why don't you come out with me? And even though he believed in it, he's never participated before. And this guy actually went and participated. And he goes, what the hell, I'll try it. But the guy, as they were walking onto this field, they're having a conversation. The other guy's making sure it's a positive one, and you know the rest. And they start meditating. And apparently this guy, who was a special operator for the United States, was absolutely blown away. And you'll hear it in that interview with Ross Coulthart. So I just wanted to know if you think linking this with prayer is different, because, you know, when you look back at history, you know, when we talked about Ezekiel's wheel or fiery chariots, maybe that's what they were. But back then, your vocabulary back then was only so far. You know, they only used so many words back then. You know, they didn't use words like UFO, UAP. You know, they had the ancient words they were using, even though it was probably understandable to us today to a certain extent. A lot of it probably in Hebrew and other languages. But still, the point I'm making is maybe they were describing these things perhaps based on the words that they knew, only the words they knew how to convey. You know, Ezekiel's wheel, for example, or fiery chariots, and many more. There's a lot of more that you'll find in the Bible that describe these things in the sky. Ancient paintings from, if not hundreds, almost thousands of years ago, that they found with objects in the sky that look similar to saucers or shapes that we're seeing today, and have been seeing at least in the mainstream for the past 80 years, but yet swept under the rug and told you're crazy if you talk about it. But I just want to know what you guys think about the difference between these guys doing this meditation technique and your average, no matter what religion, your average person who practices this religion and praying, not necessarily for a miracle, but just praying for just good things to happen in the world, you know, wars to stop, people to get along, whatever it is you're praying for, financial hardships. I mean, there's obviously differences between meditation and prayer, but then it goes back to what I said in the beginning. Consciousness and spirit, even though scientists might say it's not one and the same, I believe it's just another way of saying spirit. Let me know what you guys think. I watched that whole thing and I thought it was intriguing, and it was definitely worth watching. So definitely click on the link in the description and check it out when you have time. It's definitely worth taking a look at. And then I'll see if I can get the other link for you also, for the guy that was backing his story up. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that to your attention today and play those 2 clips, his introduction, and then what I considered to be a profound clip that I wanted to share with you guys from that interview, just so you guys can get a little picture of how this interview went if you didn't see the whole thing yet. Again, it's Ross Coulthart interviewing Jake Barber, who was in the military and was a private contractor after that. And he was actually one of the many who go and retrieve either UAPs that are apparently ours and or from other parts of the world, which you'll hear in the interview, or when he finally discovered that a couple of them were not man-made, and you could see the profound effect it had on him. And it was interesting to note that he said it was more of, when we grew up, we look at this, whether it's in the Muslim world or the Christian world or the Jewish world, they always tend to show God as a masculine person or a male. But in my research in the past 5 years, they get a sense of a more feminine type of experience. So that was interesting, I thought. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching today. I'm working on another video, and I'll put those links in the description. Take care, everyone.
The human spectrum is on the track, y'all.